Hi, wonderful people. I'm Leah Rapaner. As a sociologist, University of Melbourne professor, founder of the Gender Equity Initiative, director of the Future of Work Lab, woman, wife, and mother, I've made it my life's mission to take down every ridiculous gender myth out there. Together, we'll deep dive into the research to get to the bottom of all these misperceptions that are holding all of us back. Don't worry, I've studied these types of questions for decades, and after publishing countless articles exactly on these topics, I know when they are nonsense or real truths. And I'm going to help you learn that too. So here we go. Let's do it. This is Misperceived. Can you find your keys? Like, if your keys get left in your house, do you know where they are? Or do you start to scramble and you can't find anything anywhere? When you come home, walk through that door, do your eyes instantly dart to the mess around your house? The clothes piled up, the dishes in the sink, the dust that is everywhere. Or do you not see dirt? And then if you're partnered with a man, do you feel like he sees the things you see when you walk into the house? Like, do you feel like, oh, he can't see those dishes? Or, God, I don't know why he can't identify that those socks he took off 3 days ago are still next to the couch? Do you find that your man partner can see the keys? Or do you find that you're the one who's always searching for stuff, like when things go missing? Are you expected to have this kind of awareness of everything that's happening in the house and where everything is? On today's episode of Misperceived, we're going to unpack, is it in fact a misperception that men are dirt blind? I'm going to talk to you about an article that I wrote with colleagues Sarah Tabo and Sabino Cornrich in an article called Good Housekeeping, Great Expectations, Gender and Housework Norms. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, does anyone really believe that men are dirt blind? Like, is this actually a misperception or have we moved past this? I will tell you, as someone who has talked about housework for, 20 years, yeah, no, people still believe it. Like, people still do come up to me and say something like, can't men just not see the mess? Can't men not see the dirt? And can't men just not find their keys? Let me walk you through the logic. The logic is something like this. Oh, we've just evolved. It's an evolutionary process. Women, they were trained on, picking up the berries and hunting, gathering. And so they're really tuned in evolutionarily to the small details. And men, they were just always focused on that big hunt. They were the hunters. So they were always looking out on the horizon, which means they could never see the berries on the ground. This is like total bullshit, right? Like when we say these kinds of things, like, is there an evolutionary disposition for men to be able to not see mess? And is this just because of our hunter-gatherer days? Now, these are the types of arguments that I get told when I talk about these issues. And I want to say, like I said to you, like, come on, are we for real about this? But I can't. Well, I mean, I can, of course, but I want to bring evidence. Like, I want to be able to say, oh, no. There's science that shows that this isn't true. So guess what? I'm the science, and I'm going to be the person who's bringing the evidence. So in this article, we were asking this as one of the questions within it. We were asking this question: can men, in fact, not see the mess? Is this a myth or is this fact? And if it's a myth, can we just get rid of the myth, right? Like, can we just say no more? So what we did is we took a picture of the same room. It's one room. And in one picture, it was messy. We had a lot of conversation about this, right? Like, are we testing mess or are we testing cleanliness? Because these are two different things. You can have a messy room that's relatively clean. And you can also have a tidy room that's really dirty. Sometimes that's my house, honestly. Like let's be honest, that's my shower, always. And so these are two different things. And we were really interested in, we were trying to think about, how do we do this? Like, are we testing clean? Are we testing mess? And the thing is clean's a little harder to get in a photo, right? It's a little harder. You have to kind of almost like zoom in to show people the grit and the dirt and the grime. And again, you could use any probably part of my house to show this piece. But what we were thinking about was mess. So when I talk to you about this, it's mess. So it's the same room. Envision it like this kind of open room with a kitchen and a living space in the same spot, a great room. And in one, we cleaned it up, and in one, we messed it. And what we were interested in doing is showing people these photos. People didn't see the same photo. So this was an experiment. People didn't see the same photo. They only saw one photo. They either saw the messy room or they saw the cleaned up, tidy room. And we asked them, how messy is this room? I mean, we asked them a range of questions, but we asked them very specifically, how messy is this room? And it was on a scale of 0 to 100. And the mess to see, like, is it really clean or really messy? Extremely messy to extremely clean. And then we went and we got 646 people. We paid them $1 each to participate in our survey. And we went to look to see, do they actually rate that messy room as messy? And do they actually rate that clean room as clean? And here's the thing. If men were in fact dirt blind, right? If men actually couldn't see the mess, they would look at that messy room and they would say, that's a clean room, or at least cleaner than women would say. And if men really couldn't see the mess, they would look at that clean room and say, I don't know, I guess it's clean, right? They would just be bad at measuring this. But in particular, they'd be really bad at that messy room. They would look at that messy room and say that that room is in fact clean. So we pre-tested this, and then we tested this, and let me tell you what we found. Men rated that messy room as just as messy as did women. Women rated that clean room as just as clean as did men. They both looked at that room and saw it as equally clean and equally messy. Men are not dirt blind. They can see the mess and they can see the clean. So as per usual, you know, I asked this question, is it in fact a misperception that men are in fact dirt blind? Yeah, it's a big giant lie. Men are not dirt blind. Men can see the mess in the ways in which women can see the mess. And so that's a myth. But that begs the question, why? Why is it that in fact men don't quote unquote see the mess? Well, I mean, they can see the mess, of course. I've just shown you that their eyeballs work exactly the same as do women's. But why is it that they don't care about the mess then? That's the bigger question. Why then do men not necessarily care if the house is dirty or not? That's socialization. That's gender norms, right? We've told men that that's not their job. We've told men that their identity isn't tied to whether they're messy or clean. And in fact, if a man is messy, we kind of, it's kind of boyish or it's something we expect. But if a woman is messy, man, that's a social violation. What's wrong with her? We're more permissive of mess being tied to boys from a young age and to men at later ages. It's less of a knock to their confidence. It's less of a way to indicate whether they're good or bad. That's not the same for women. We've also socialized women to be monitoring everything at home, to be looking and scanning and thinking about what needs to be done. We've positioned them to be the managers at home. It's interesting though, because if we look at the research, we find that actually people spend the same amount of housework time, men and women in heterosexual unions. They spend the same amount of time when they're single, when no one else is in that partnership. Now I'm not talking about those who are living in share houses or whatever, right? That's a different story. But when they're single, men spend just as much time in housework as do women. When they come together in a partnership, when they start to live together and cohabit, you start to see that changes, that men start to do less and women start to do more. And then when they have babies, everyone does more. But the gender gap widens again, which means women start to do even more. So the minute we put a woman in the house with a man, there's a shift in the gender norms, and she steps in and does more of the housework, and all of a sudden he becomes dirt blind. That's an expectation that someone else is going to pick up your mess. Now, I know you're panicked. Maybe you're validated. I don't know. I don't know what your vibe is right now, but let us know on our Instagram. Tell us on your Instagram how you're feeling. But I think what I want to say is we also have research showing that men are hearing this message too a little bit, that they need to step and do more housework. And they do. We have another study. I've talked to you about this in a previous podcast. Men are doing more housework than they were in the past with each subsequent generation. But women still hold more. And women still feel this sense of responsibility for the house and the mess in a way that impacts their self-worth in a way that men don't. And so, may I ask, please, can we stop two things? Can we break two gender myths? The first is that men are dirt blind. This is just absolute nonsense. And the second one is that if the house is messy, it's a woman's fault and she's less of a woman. There's something wrong with her. Can we just add that everyone today is so busy that the research shows we're all messier? Our houses are messier. Why? Well, we're working. We have kids. There's just not enough time to do everything that everyone's doing. But the penalty's still there. So let's stop the penalties in both directions. Let's stop the nonsense about men not seeing the mess. And then let's stop the penalty for women as being lesser because they do have mess in their house. As per usual, thanks so much for listening to Misperceived, where you don't need a PhD. You just get to hang out with me. Just wanted to let you know that this is our last episode of this season. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. Go to our @Misperceived podcast Instagram to share through your thoughts. We have one very exciting thing coming up. We're going to be doing a live podcast recording, and we'll tell you all about it on our socials. It's going to be a part of the University of Melbourne's Being Human Festival, and we'll tell you everything about it on our Instagram page. You don't have to come on campus to Melbourne, fly around the world to Australia. It'll be live, Zoom link, stay in your pajamas, bring your friends, grab the popcorn, and ask any questions you have about gender and the misperceptions. Okay, bye everyone. This podcast was produced with the support of the incredible Sophie Squires, the wonderful Kate Danger, the fantastic Rich Berner, and the one and only, the best ever made, Serena Reagan. I would like to acknowledge that our podcast is recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening today.